play as Aho comes up with it, cuts to the net, waits, and scores! Oh, Shorty, talk to me. What a goal by Sebastian Aho. And it's 1-0 Carolina. Around the boards it goes. Svechnikov and Burns reach for it. Now it's going to be a chance for the Bruins coming in. Pastrnak, Kochetkov, net. We talk. Elias Lindholm will roll this forward. Pastrnak with a no-look shot. Kicked away by Kochetkov. Sharp angle, and he'll hold the post there. Now it's given away. Jarvis, shot, he scores! Oh, taking advantage of the miscue with 18.6 left. Seth Jarvis, no mistake, and Carolina takes a 3-2 lead.
Hi, everyone. It's the Canes Corner Podcast. I'm Adam Gold. Hope you're well. I am. Feel like I'm well. I hope you are. And we are here, and we are live at Lenovo Center, where all the magic happens, and all the magic happened today. This is the Canes Corner Podcast. We're live on YouTube, as we always are. Invite you to subscribe, like, smash, whatever you got to do. Tell your friends. We have a nice little Hurricanes community here, and we all get along. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. You should check them out for all of your exterior home improvement needs. All right. Big picture about the game. We're going to try to move through this quickly because, honestly, there are some heavier things to get to. Hurricanes were no good tonight for the most part. I mean, they were good in pockets. Actually didn't hate their first period. I didn't think it was great, but I thought they had enough guys going to keep it where it was. Unfortunate, goal late to make it 1-1. But I think Boston was a deserving, 1-1 team in the first period. Frank, you can make an argument that Boston was better than Carolina was in the first period, even if it was just maybe by a little bit. So 1-1 was probably representative of the way that first period should go. There's a phrase that they use in soccer called smash and grab. And I'm a big Liverpool fan, and I'm just second time I'm going to use this analogy, and it was brought to my attention. I would have used it anyway, but one of our, lovely Canes fans brought it up to me, so I'll use it. I forget his name. I apologize. And the smash and grab is when you basically kind of stink and somehow still end up winning. Liverpool did that to PSG on Wednesday. That would be yesterday in the Champions League. No business winning that game 1-0. Today, Hurricanes, not as good as Boston. Carolina was no good. They were a mess with the puck. But they win at 3-2. All three goals were breaks. Mason Lohrei turns it over. I guess it's a turnover. Tries to leave it for David Pastrnak. Aho reads the play, beats Pasta to the puck, and then skates in. Great goal. Patient, outweights Korpisalo. Backhand from a tough angle, but a great goal for Aho, his 24th. Brent Burns catches a break off the stick of Parker Wotherspoon, one of Boston's defensemen. I think Burns makes the right play and in some ways gets rewarded for the right play. And that, to me, looked like he was trying to get the stick of Taylor Hall. But it goes off the stick, the inside of the stick of the defender, and it beats Korpisalo's short side. That's the Carolina second goal. And the third goal, Jarvis, good pressure. Sometimes you make your own breaks. And speaking of breaks, Nikita Zadorov trying to get the puck out of the zone. Stick breaks. Puck goes right to Jarvis. And he didn't waste the opportunity. He beats Jonas Korpisalo with over 18.6 seconds left, and the Hurricanes win it. So those are the three goals for Carolina. But the Hurricanes really weren't any good tonight. They were bad in the second period. Flat bad in the second period. Still led 2-1. You thought, my gosh, can they get away with this? And then Boston scores early in the third. I really wanted to go back and look at the goal again, but for some reason the video on NHL.com was malfunctioning. Kind of think that Jordan Staal lost the box out on Morgan Geekie, who's really become a very nice player for the Boston Bruins. He is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season? I mean, I could be convinced to welcome Morgan Geekie back into the fold if the Hurricanes wanted to go after him. I don't think he'd be super expensive, but he's a right shot. Hurricanes could use some guys on the right side. He's not small. He's a big guy. I think he knows how to play. We loved him when he was here. They lost him in the expansion draft to Seattle. Ron Francis is the guy that drafted him. So if Hurricanes wanted to go after Morgan Geekie, it's another topic for another day. Very quickly, I'm going to run down some of the players I thought played really well tonight. And we know where we're going to ultimately end up with that. I thought Sebastian Aho was, let's pretend that the second period didn't happen, because really wasn't a lot of good for anybody in the second period. I thought Aho was great tonight. I loved Seth Jarvis's third period, maybe not so much his first. And Jarvis, of course, there's a lot of pressure on that, on the play throughout that creates the opportunity to get that goal. But again, I thought 20 and 24 really good. Jacob Slavin was just awesome again. Game in, game out. Talked to Tripp before the game. And Tripp has what he believes is a potential reason. But while everybody kind of, had to come down and then get back up after the Four Nations face-off, Jarvis, and I think Aho and Rantanen too. Slavin didn't. Slavin elevated. He's been better since the Four Nations face-off. That was his, that's right, Jacob Slavin is good at this defensive thing. Everybody had that revelation. Yeah. During the Four Nations face-off. We see it all the time. We're not surprised by anything we watched on that stage. But he's taken it up. And I mean, it comes at the right time. Hurricanes now, we have 19 games remaining in the season, so everybody's got to start elevating their game. And Slavin's doing it. To me, he was one of the I thought he was the best player in Detroit. Thought he was the best player against Calgary. And to me, he was probably Carolina's best skater tonight. Jackson Blake had some good moments. Man, he was so responsible for the goal that ultimately was ruled out for offside, which, fine, it was the right call. But I thought Blake was really good. He's going to get a goal here soon. And there's so many goal droughts for Carolina going into today. Blake now on 14 games without a goal. Kotkaniemi, Eric Robinson, each 10 games without a goal. Roslovic, 7 games. Svechnikov, 6 games. Andre, come on, Bubby, let's go. Brent Burns ends a 24-game goal drought. Dmitry Orlov, who didn't dress, we'll address him in a second. 26 games without a goal. So Carolina's got some guys on who are fighting it in terms of scoring goals. Pyotr Kochetkov was spectacular tonight. He wasn't good. He wasn't great. He was awesome. I saw some shade on the first goal. I mean, I think it's a good shot. I think it's a rebound. And I'm not sure he wasn't kind of screened by Shane Gostisbehere. But either way, he was so good. So good tonight. I think he got David Pastrnak 6 times. I'll go check. But the breakaway, there were a couple of one-timers. There was a chance in really tight in the second period, I think, where he got Pastrnak, just in a dynamite game from Kochetkov. Let me get David Pastrnak. Let's see, 7 shots on goal, 8 scoring chances, 3 high danger, no goals. That's all number 52, people. He was awesome tonight. Quick thoughts on goaltending. Freddie was very good yesterday in Detroit. Kochetkov, even though he didn't face a lot of shots against Calgary, he was amazing in that second period, kept Carolina afloat, kept that lead, kept that game 0-0. So, and ultimately Carolina went ahead 1-0. Yes, it went to overtime, and Kochetkov didn't have to do anything in the overtime, but still, Kochetkov was awesome in the game. And it comes at the right time. Coming out of, well, whatever, I'm not even talking about the Four Nations break. When Anderson came back from the injury, and all right, now Carolina's whole, I thought, all right, this will be perfect because Freddie will come back. He'll play well. He's refreshed. Kochetkov, the pressure's off. He'll get back. And I thought, man, Carolina's really good now with the number one goalie, which even though they were going to alternate, kind of felt like it was Freddie was the number one, and it gives you a chance to have a really good number two. And who doesn't like a good number two? But it hadn't worked out that way. And Carolina's goaltending since Freddie's return has been relatively meh. The last two games before tonight, one for each, I thought really good. The others lately have been okay. Not bad, but not really good. And tonight, second straight game where Kochetkov was really good. And in fact, tonight was spectacular because he had a heavy workload. And, going into the trade deadline, which is tomorrow at 3:00. And again, we're going to talk about some things here. I thought, man, Carolina could really use a goalie. And I'm still not against adding goaltending depth because you might need a third goalie. But boy, has Kochetkov stepped his game up to the point where maybe Carolina will be okay. I know they don't want to go out and spend an asset on a goaltender. And as long as Anderson is healthy and Kochetkov is playing well, Carolina should be okay. But I thought Pyotr had some puck management issues, but it wasn't like he didn't do anything dumb. And that's the thing you're looking for or not looking for with Kochetkov. It's like, as long as you're doing the right things, like I think his a couple of times he gave the puck away, or at least one he gave the puck away. I mean, it had to be a great play to knock the puck down, but like he could have managed it a little bit better. He scared the heck out of me twice playing the puck in front of his net, like stick handling the puck. I'm like, dude, we can't have that. But he was just really, really good tonight. And I thought his reads were good. Used the poke check a couple of times the right way. So, man, we don't even need him to be what he was today, because Carolina's generally not going to give up the type of chances that they gave up today. But if we can get something reasonably close to what we saw tonight on a regular basis from him, Anderson, I think, will be dragged into that fight, if you will. And I think Carolina's goaltending might be okay. And that they're going to need good goaltending because clearly the Hurricanes are not going to score a ton of goals. They got 3 tonight. All 3 came on presence. The Lohrei giveaway to Aho for the shorthanded goal. The deflection off the defenseman's stick for the Burns goal. And then Zadorov stick breaks, setting up Jarvis for the 3rd goal. They're all gifts. Hello. On a platter for you. All right, quickly about Carolina's game tonight, which was not good. I thought, as much as anything, Carolina had the problem to me was passing the puck. And it was twofold. One, I thought their passes were, in general, inaccurate. A lot of passes into skates, a lot of passes that were behind, a lot of passes that were not on time. Like, feel free to get rid of the puck a little bit sooner. And there were also some passes that just had nothing on it. I believe they listed Rantanen with 3 giveaways. My gosh, that's a low number. He was no good in the first period. Frankly, and we're going to get to him in a minute, but passing the puck, I think he gave it away early on. He took an offensive zone penalty after losing the puck twice on poor passes. He struggled early. but he was indicative of a team that really, really fought the puck in terms of passing. Real quick about the alignment today, or the guys on the ice, because Dmitry Orlov wasn't a healthy scratch. Now, I watched everybody because I think we're all interested in make sure that Rantanen was going to play in the game. He practiced this morning. He practiced yesterday in an optional practice, but came out, took the warm up, and we're just like, cool, everybody's here. Orlov was here, and I was checking everybody out because I saw Riley Stillman taking the warm up. For those, real quick, Riley Stillman was waived yesterday and cleared waivers, and people thought he would be released or whatever. And the Hurricanes had to do that. I will be surprised if tomorrow we don't see Riley Stillman having been sent down to Chicago of the American Hockey League. The reason for that is that in order to play in the playoffs in the AHL, you have to be on their roster. Now, even though the AHL trading deadline isn't until next week, if you're in the NHL, you can't be sent down to the minor leagues to play in the playoffs unless you are on their roster at the trade deadline. So, and I know there is some thought that maybe Jackson Blake will do the same thing. I don't know that, but I actually think he won't. I don't believe that they're going to, because Hurricanes are going to have playoff games to play. And I don't think they're going to have the go through this entire season with Blake playing here the entire year. Has he missed a game yet? I don't believe so. And then go through the playoffs. And then when that's over, whenever that is, send him to Chicago in the AHL. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, it could, but I don't think it will. So Stillman tomorrow will probably be sent to Chicago, and then we'll see him back here Sunday. Maybe he'll play. Maybe he'll just be a healthy extra. And Dmitry Orlov did have an injury, tweaked something. I don't know. Rod was pretty, close to the vest about it. He didn't explain upper or lower body. I didn't see it. But it was not a case where Orlov was held out of the game or a convenient healthy scratch. They wouldn't do that for to put Riley Stillman in the game. You know, if Scott Morrow were here, then sure. And I think it was pretty clear early on that Rod was not interested in using Riley Stillman because the Hurricanes actually went through several different rotations. For instance, Sean Walker and Jalen Chatfield, I'm pretty sure, started the game. We don't see that combination very often. Walker played his right side. Chatfield played his offside. And I've said this before. I think Chatfield's good on his offside. It wouldn't bother me, for instance, next year if I don't know who's going to be a top pair blue liner, but it wouldn't bother me next year if, let's just say, Sean Walker played with Jacob Slavin and Alexander Nikishin played with Jalen Chatfield. Wouldn't bug me a bit. Although Nikishin would play his left side, Chatfield would play his right. But either way, I think Chatfield can play his offside. And I think he was very good. And I thought Chatfield played a very good game as well. But it was clear that they weren't going to use Stillman because if they went through a 5-man rotation and then Stillman got on the ice, delivered a pretty good check of John Beecher. Beecher goes down, Skjei comes up and gets him right in the mouth. So we didn't see Riley Stillman the rest of the way. So I have no idea what the status is, how many stitches he needed, but I mean, he took a skate in the mouth. My guess is dental work was needed, although we didn't notice anything really bad as he was skating off the ice except blood, but it wasn't a ton of blood anyway. He never returned. So I don't know what the status is with Stillman for Sunday, and I don't know what the status is of Dmitry Orlov for Sunday. So maybe we'll get a call-up. Maybe we'll see Scott Morrow here. And you know me, I've been advocating for Morrow and Bradley Nadeau to both be called up to the Hurricanes. Maybe that will happen. All right. First, shout-outs. Hoke County. Aventura, Florida. Don't know where that is. East Coast, West Coast, Central Florida, no clue. But shouts to you, Caniacs in Aventura, Florida. Richmond, Virginia. Callie Kaniak's checking in. Adelaide Hills. Mikhailov. I didn't know it was Adelaide Hills. I just thought it was Adelaide. Are those two places? I assume they're close to each other. From Greenville, from Vero Beach, Florida, from Kernersville. Shouts to you in Kernersville, and New Haven, Connecticut. Thank you very much for spending some time here in the Canes Corner podcast. All right, we've gone through all the players who played well. Let me spend a couple of minutes on somebody who did not. And I am in no way throwing shade on this player, but it was pretty obvious that Mikko Rantanen's head was somewhere else tonight, I thought. I thought he was not good. I mean, and I think it's understandable. This has been really hard on him. I don't know Mikko, but I'm just going to put myself in the shoes of another human being. And for 10 years, he had been with one organization, and whether the negotiations were going poorly or not, and it's obvious that they were going poorly, that organization traded him. And while this organization wanted him, Mikko didn't want to leave Colorado. Whether he would have left in the offseason remains to be seen, but Colorado decided, A, we're not going to pay him Leon Draisaitl money. They had a cap on, they were not going to go beyond Nathan MacKinnon. MacKinnon just got a new contract a few years ago. Weren't going beyond that. So Rantanen was going to have to accept significantly less money than a similar, not the same, but a similar player. Remember, Draisaitl is a center. Rantanen is not, even though he can play center. So they ultimately decided, you know what? We're not even going to mess with it. We're going to trade him. And the Hurricanes came up with Necas and Drury and a second-round pick. And Colorado went, there we go. That's our haul for Mikko Rantanen. And meanwhile, Rantanen, the human being who didn't want to leave Denver, now is completely uprooted, and he's coming to a place where they're going to ask him to play differently, and it hasn't gone well for him. He certainly has played well at times, but overall, probably no better than a B, and that's not what Mikko Rantanen is. But that's, to me, that's the trauma of the trade. So, I don't think he's not a great player. I think he's an amazing player who is only really showing us flashes of how good he can be. Now, at times he's been good, and at times he was bad. Tonight he was bad. He wasn't alone. There were other guys who were bad, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy who is likely going to make $13 to $14 million a year next year, and the Hurricanes want to pay him that. And he might not want to take it from the Hurricanes. And I think as the closer we got to the deadline, and what we don't know, what I don't know, what I can only put together and speculate on, is whether or not Rantanen has told the Hurricanes, yeah, on July 1, I'm just going to be a free agent, and I'm going to go wherever I want to go. And I think the Hurricanes, this is sort of like doing a logic problem, okay? So when the Hurricanes traded for him, what did Eric Tulsky say? If you go back and you listen again to what Tulsky said, and this is paraphrasing, I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing him. Basically, we're going to bring Mikko in. We're going to show him the culture of the Carolina Hurricanes. He's got a buddy here in Sebastian Aho who loves it here, who loves playing for this head coach. We're going to get him around us and how we care about each other and how the players, there is a great vibe in that locker room. And we think that when it's all said and done, this is where Mikko will want to play for the next 8 years. That was the plan. The plan was never, we're trading for Mikko Rantanen here, and it gives us 5 weeks before the trade deadline, or actually 7 weeks before the trade deadline, and we're going to try to get him signed by then, and if not, we're going to trade. That was not it. It was the former. It was, we're going to show him who we are. We're going to see how successful we are. All of this, we're going to push for a Stanley Cup or however far they can go, and then we're going to sign him. And then all of a sudden, everything got accelerated. And why? I don't know why it got accelerated, but it did. And my guess is outside forces kind of conspired. And I'm not saying anybody was forcing Carolina's hand. There became so much conversation about, will he, won't he, why won't he? Is this about Carolina? Is it the style? Is it the coach? Are they asking him to play too hard, too much? I think it just became too much. And the Hurricanes are trying to get this done because they understand what they gave up. They understand how good he can be. And they want to make it work with Rantanen, whether or not it has worked or it will work. They want to make it work. So the contract offer, I think, was accelerated. I always thought the Hurricanes were going to explore it, but I think it became, and maybe that's all they've done, and the reporting has just taken on a life of its own, which is possible. But here is my best logic problem. This is happening because this is happening. I think it's probably a fair guess that while Rantanen has officially, the official word is, I'm not ready to make a decision. I think everybody is being kind at this point. I think the insiders across the NHL are either being kind to the Hurricanes, or that's how it is officially being labeled by the Hurricanes, that or by agents, that Rantanen is not ready to commit. And maybe on the surface, that's true, and there's still a chance. But my guess is that he has probably let it be known that, yeah, I'm probably not staying. So at that point, the Hurricanes, and this is what I've been saying now for the better part of a week and a half to 2 weeks, the Hurricanes have to make a decision. And they have to make a decision as to, do we want to let this go, pursue, as close as we can get to a Stanley Cup with the group that we've got, and maybe add a tweak or two within the, on the margins, whether it's a veteran defenseman or a center, somebody we can use in certain situations. We want to do that at the trade deadline tomorrow. Just kind of tweak around the margins and let it ride. And then on June 28th, trade Rantanen's rights to whatever team and recoup a third-round pick or a second-round pick. They want to do that? Or do you find a team that maybe Mikko would be more comfortable staying with, who he thinks he can sign a long-term deal with, and see what you can get that you can actually use? Like, a legit center, another wing, a defenseman, whatever. And I think the Hurricanes are exploring that because I think they need to. And it has nothing to do with the fact that Rantanen didn't play well tonight and has been basically a B player for Carolina over the 12 or 13 games that he's played. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with, man, think about the miss Carolina is, above all else, this organization is about maximizing assets. So think about this. Rantanen walks in free agency. You have traded a very good, probably a career third or fourth center. On a great team, probably a 4. On a good team, a 3 in Jack Drury, who can play in all situations, win faceoffs, kill penalties, smart player. Heard somebody refer to him as a future captain. Like, okay, that might be much. He's got leadership skills, no doubt about it. But usually players like that are not captains. Anyway, that's one element. And then you've got the highlight reel of Martin Necas. That's the real asset. So you give away those 2 players plus a second-round pick, whatever you gave to Chicago, to get Taylor Hall and to have the money filtered. That is, let's just set that aside. So those are 2 pretty good assets plus a second-rounder. The 4th rounder is what it is the following year. It's not a ton to give up for Mikko Rantanen, obviously. But, man, if you had your assets back, Martin Necas could either be your player for another year, or you could use him to get something else that you really need. And if you don't keep Rantanen after July 1, and again, I ain't ruling it out, I'm just kind of putting the puzzle pieces together here. That's a pretty tough waste of an asset like Martin Necas. And again, the organization is about maximizing assets, not minimizing them. And that ultimately is what would happen. So the Hurricanes are going to have to decide. Are we going to take our medicine now in terms of a public, the criticism that comes with, I can't believe they traded for him and they only kept him for 6 weeks and then they moved him on and they didn't get nearly what they gave up. I mean, that could happen, depending. And I don't think they'll just give him away. I don't think they'll do that. And they shouldn't do that. Because Rantanen for another 6 weeks, whatever it is, into the playoffs is better than just, getting a depth center for Rantanen. So I think if they can't get something substantial for him, I think they're going to keep him. But, I mean, I think that's where the organization is with this. And a night like tonight, my opinion, I think gives them even more ammunition to move him on. Because it wasn't great. And he hasn't been great since he got here. He certainly has played some very good games, and this is not, he should. He's a great player. And Carolina's got a lot of players who should be able to play with him. And I don't think we've seen, honestly, they just don't gel. I think after the first couple of games where Aho and Rantanen seem to be going in opposite directions, I think they've been fine. Tonight was a puck management problem for him. I also have not loved the fact that he doesn't really come back and defend all that much. It's not really what this team does. But regardless, every player is different, and I'm sure that they're allowing Rantanen some more freedom than they would have allowed other players. I get it. So I just think that this has been a very rough time for him. And if you watched the game last night, if you saw the interview in the locker room with Sebastian Aho, I think you can tell, really just through his speech, that this has kind of taken a little bit of a toll on him too. So he and Rantanen go pretty far back. Aho told me at one point a couple of weeks ago that he and Rantanen roomed together during some Finland, whether it's World Juniors or stuff like that. They were roommates, and they're good friends, and we know this. And I think Sebastian Aho would love to have his good buddy on the team. He doesn't need it. I think he would love it. There's a difference between something you want and something you need. I don't think Aho needs Rantanen. I think he would love to have him here. And I think Sebastian has gone to great lengths to make things more comfortable and palatable for Rantanen. And whether it's worked or not in the minds of anybody doesn't matter. Because ultimately the Hurricanes are going to decide what's best for this team, this roster, this year, next year, the year after that, whether or not Mikko Rantanen, whether Carolina is better with Rantanen or better with pieces that they can get through moving Rantanen. And that will happen by tomorrow at 3:00. And I don't know how it's going to go. Again, I said this so many times, I'll say it one more time. I think the greatest likelihood is that tomorrow comes and goes, and the Hurricanes do almost nothing, maybe a little tweak around the edges, maybe just bring in some depth, and that Rantanen is here when the Hurricanes take on the Jets on Sunday in a Hurricanes uniform, not in a Winnipeg uniform. And then we'll just have to deal with it, whether or not he signs in July. The one thing I do, you're hearing all the rumors about where he's going to go. I personally think he'll go back to the Western Conference if he doesn't sign with Carolina, maybe Toronto, but I think more than likely he goes to the Western Conference. And the Hurricanes will deal with it. They'll deal with the ramifications. He can't sign with Chicago. Or actually, the Hurricanes can't trade him to Chicago. He can sign with Chicago after July 1. But if the Hurricanes moved him, they can't move him to Chicago. It's against the rules of the league because Chicago retained money. You can't trade him back there. They will not trade him to Florida. I don't think they'll trade him anywhere in the East. I know the Devils were interested. I just don't think the Hurricanes are going to trade him to a team, A, in the Eastern Conference because playoffs, and B, what do you have? What could Florida possibly give Carolina for Rantanen? I can't think of anything that they would give Carolina for Rantanen. If they wanted to give Anton Lundell and Eetu Luostarinen, yeah, I think Carolina would take those two guys. But they ain't going to do it. Would Carolina take Carter Verhaeghe in a first? I don't know. Probably not. I just don't think there's a fit with Florida. I don't think there's a fit with, I don't know what Carolina would get back from Toronto. They certainly don't really want futures, depending. So I don't know what they're going to do. I know it's going to be probably a long night for Eric Tulsky and a very, very difficult day tomorrow if they have to move him. But I also think that if they keep him, I think everything will get better. Because I think once 3:00 passes tomorrow, I think everybody will be able to breathe. And I do think it's been a rough go. Final thing here. My opinion, what Carolina could use, and this is not about using Rantanen to get it, but maybe it would be if they decide to move Rantanen. I think they need another center. Ideally, it's a center who can play up in the lineup. So you could have Aho as your 1. Theoretically, somebody else is your 2. Kokoniemi as your 3 and Staal as your 4. That's the way I think I would like to see it. I would like to see it that way. Jesperi, who had played really a bunch of good games in a row. I didn't think he was all that great tonight. But I think they need a center. Preferably somebody who is a right shot. Don't know how many of those are even available. I think they need defensive depth. We don't know when Alexander Nikishin is going to be here. And I'm not sure that they really trust Scott Morrow yet. I could be wrong. But I'd love to see a veteran defenseman added. And I think if they were going to add somebody on the wing. I think you're looking for somebody with at least a lot of speed, but I think a speed and size combination would be ideal. And that's where we are. So we went a little bit longer. I thank you very much for joining us in the Canes Corner podcast. Oh, by the way, I meant to give you this stat, so I'll do this stat first, and then we'll jump out of here. In 2025, the Hurricanes have 5 shorthanded goals and 5 power play goals. So somebody asked, what are essentially the percentages, the data on it. The Hurricanes have been shorthanded 71 times with 5 goals. They have gone on the power play 70 times with 5 goals. They are basically exactly the same in terms of likelihood of scoring a goal, shorthanded, and the power play. That makes me sad, but it makes me laugh at the same time. There you go. All right. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hannon and his crew do a great job. You should check them out online. aluminumcompany.com. Hold on to your butts tomorrow, 3 o'clock. That's when it all ends. And I think by that point, I think there'll be a lot of exhaling to do. It hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy on his teammates. Hasn't been easy on Mikko Rantanen. So I feel for him. It'll all be over soon. What is it right now? 20 minutes after 11. So we've got another roughly 15 and a half hours to go before Rantanen's chest just kind of just opens up a little bit. All right, we'll see everybody for Winnipeg on Sunday. Take it easy. Hey, Canes are in good shape. 6 points ahead of the Devils. Good night.